Hey, welcome to week 3. I am joining you from the road because I wrote a program on bullying, which you're studying this week, but I'm presenting it to a group of folks over the next 2 days. So if you need me, just call me this week. Anyway, this week is all about adolescents. I'm sure you remember your adolescence fondly. Okay, maybe not, but there's a lot to it. This week, you'll be doing your discussion post and reply, and then you'll also be looking at a case study. It's interesting, the case study uses an outdated term called differing abilities. When folks have disabilities, we say they're a person with disabilities or a person with a disability. In this case, this is a person with spina bifida. We don't say differing abilities. We think that that's kind of rude and it takes away from the fact that they're just a person with a disability. That's called person first language, which means we're a person with something. We're a person with blindness. We're a person who uses a wheelchair. We're a person with spina bifida. Those are totally fine things to say. As always, when we ask our client, they're going to identify themselves as they want, and they get to define themselves as they want. So we go with what they say and we use that. Speaking of identifying and defining yourself, that's what adolescence is all about. Erik Erikson says that this is where we have identity versus role confusion. So if you were the person who was wearing baggy jeans or wearing all black or trying out different colors of hair or piercings or whatever it was, I certainly was back in the day. That's because you're trying to figure out, who am I at my core? And the way that we find out who we are is usually by mimicking other groups until we find something that fits. And usually that incorporates a lot of different pieces of other folks that we value and we admire, and that's how we define ourselves. But it's a constant work in progress, right? And so we find these kids and we see them sort of maybe settling into themselves or not being as vocal about what they need. And this is the time when we don't ignore any child, even if they seem to be asking for help in the hardest way. That's when we really dig in and make sure that they know, you don't have to talk to me, but please know that I respect and honor you, and I'd love to talk to you if you ever feel the need or desire to do so. We are working on self-esteem. Most of the time we don't have great self-esteem, right, at that age, because we feel like a spotlight is on us all the time, and that if we have a pimple that everyone can see it and we can't possibly go to school. We're looking at things like self-control, and because teenagers have and their brains are not fully formed, they have trouble with impulsive behavior. So they're making choices that aren't great. They're taking lots of risks, and it's a wonder that any of them really make it through, right? But they do, and they tend to learn how to take on responsibility and how to work through all those impulsive things, right? We're working on attention, being able to pay attention. We're expecting these kids to sleep, go to bed early and wake up early, or wake up early and go to school. And that's just not their circadian rhythm. It's not how their body works best. So we tend to see them having trouble with attention and memory. And some folks get help for that if they need extra help, and some folks don't. And that just tends to cause some problems. They're also really interested in having friendships, right? Friendships are the key at this stage, more so usually than their studies. They care more about what their friends are doing. And now in the day of technology, we know we have to be extra helpful with them knowing how to be safe on their phones and not letting those impulsive behaviors have them make tough choices where they have lifelong consequences, like maybe sending a picture of themselves to a person they're in a relationship with. That can get a little dicey. So we want to make sure that they are making informed decisions as much as possible, and recognizing that this is an impulsive time, and then what can we do when we have those impulses, and how can we maybe incorporate healthy behaviors so that maybe those impulses aren't as tricky or risky. When you work on your case study, make sure you're looking through all these pieces. Think about where they are developmentally. Think about person first language. Think about how just because someone comes to counseling and they have spina bifida doesn't mean that they necessarily need help with their spina bifida. We don't even have to ask them about that. It's our responsibility to look those things up before they come or after they leave, so that we know exactly what types of things might be helpful for them and what types of things might not. That's our responsibility to learn it, not their responsibility to tell us. Do that, work on your discussions, and as always, let me know if I can support you in any way. Welcome to week 3.